Welcome to the Attractions Group Podcast, episode number 69. Hello, everybody. Alongside the peripatetic Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a great week. How you doing?
Doing all right. Ready for Thanksgiving. So it's always amazing how quick we get to this time of year.
I agree. And I heard you had a festive weekend too.
I did travel to Pennsylvania, went to Hershey Park, wanted to experience their holiday event, Christmas Candy Lane. It's quite nice. Highly recommend it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we have a special guest this week. So before we move on, I just want to let everyone know, remind them that we can be found on all your favorite podcast apps, Apple, Google, Spotify, as well as the video version of the podcast on YouTube. So, Don, why don't you introduce our guest?
Well, our special guest on this episode of the Attractions Group Podcast is Pete Owens. He's Vice President of Marketing and Communications for the Dollywood Company. He's based in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, with a background spanning nearly 15 years in television news and over 2 decades in the amusement industry. Pete is deeply entrenched in the history and impact of amusement parks. Pete, it's fantastic to have you joining us. Can you start by sharing a little bit about your journey that led you to your current role with Dollywood and your involvement with the National Rollercoaster Museum and Archives?
Well, I mean, my history is, as you said, in television. So I was a film major in college, and my intent was to work in that industry forever. And what ended up happening is, as you would expect, there are changes in every industry. And I had the opportunity to continue my current path or to look for some other opportunity. And this Dollywood thing kind of landed in my lap. So I thought, well, I'll work for Dollywood for a year or two as a spokesperson for the park, and then I'll go back into news, or I'll go teach, or I'll do whatever. Because, 15 years is a pretty full career. And I was full steam ahead in the news industry, but started working for Dollywood, fell in love with the industry, had always been, somewhat of a theme park enthusiast. When my wife and I got married, we went to Disney for our honeymoon, and the first vacation we took was to Silver Dollar City, and my home parks were Peony Park in Omaha, Nebraska, which your historians may remember that little park, and Worlds of Fun. And so I had that as kind of the tip of the iceberg, but then got involved in the industry. I remarked to somebody last week that it was my 22nd IAPA Expo, and I volunteered with IAPA basically from the time I started at Dollywood, and have since. I'm still on the communications committee as long as IAPA lets that committee happen. And I'm sure I'll get dragged in to do some other things with the organization. But back in 2008, Gary Slade asked me if I'd be interested in efforts that they were undertaking to reincorporate the National Rollercoaster Museum and Archive in the state of Texas, and to relocate the archives to Texas for a couple of reasons. Number one, it had been a dream going back to 1978 when ACE was founded to have not only, a club in which celebrated roller coasters, but also the ability to help preserve and protect coasters. And Richard Munch was already on board, one of the 3 founders of ACE, as this new reincorporation of the NRCMA. So Gary asked, and I agreed. So it was an opportunity to get even more deeply involved in the industry, and I've been involved ever since.
Yeah. So can you kind of discuss some of the people that were involved in the National Roller Coaster Museum and its founding and getting it to where it is today?
Well, originally it was founded by ACE, and the history of that. There was an ACE Archives, and the museum was part of ACE Archives. So for your listeners that are not familiar with ACE, it's the American Coaster Enthusiasts. And as I said, they were founded back in 1978. and they were kind of operating both sides of that archive and the idea that they eventually would like to build a museum. Unfortunately, there was no forward momentum, and there were things that were being willed to the museum that were just sitting in storage, and there was no plan to move that forward. So Gary Slade, the publisher of Amusement Today, and Jeff Novotny, who is the former owner of Larson International, since that company is now owned by Rocky Mountain Construction, Carol Sanderson, who is a former ACE president, um, Chris Gray, Robert Ulrich, who is also a past president of the American Coaster Enthusiasts, Richard, Tom Sheehan, who is an attorney in the industry and represents both sides of the industry, both suppliers and parks, Walt Bowser, who at the time that we started with the new NRCMA, he was the vice president of engineering and maintenance for Six Flags Corporation, and several other folks were involved in that kind of constitution of the Roller Coaster Museum. But really, the key players in that were Novotny and Gary, because Jeff not only donated the land where the Roller Coaster Museum sits now, he also donated the labor to build the buildings that we have, has donated labor and materials in regard to a lot of the fabrication that you see for the displays that we have, and a lot of the conservation efforts, as well as helping us keep the lights on and doing security and all of those things, because the 5 acres on which the museum sits adjacent to Larson in Plainview. It was also great because the climate there in Plainview was so dry, it afforded the opportunity for us to be able to store some things in an environment that was not going to be corrosive to the running hardware or the track work that we had, or a lot of the other signage that we had as we were going through the process. And now, because the area is so large, with more than 20,000 square feet under roof, we have a lot of that archive inside. All of the paper archives in a climate controlled area. So all of the paper, the hundreds of thousands of documents that we have, and the collections that we have, the blueprints, all of those things that are within the archive system, that are there for review.
That's excellent. Now let's shift the focus to the museum's broader collection. What are some of the notable items that have been collected over the years?
Well, I think the highlights, there are a lot, right? When I first got involved, the big piece that we brought into the fold was Big Bad Wolf. So John Riley was the park president at Williamsburg at the time, and he was 100% in on helping us. So we were able to get an entire train, the section of track that was in the station, and then uniforms, control panels, signage, all of those things that were related to operation of the ride. And it also helped us establish some credibility within the industry as we went forward to do other acquisitions. And because Sheehan is on the board, and Sheehan represents Disney and Universal and other large players in the industry, that also helped us with some of the other acquisitions. Just recently, Montezuma's Revenge came in. Mach sent us a fully restored track-mounted Eurostat car. We have the Super Duper Looper that has been put on a display. Things as odd as the Wonderland Pier ride that is pretty interesting. Entire train from Rollercoaster, an entire track section and train from Texas Cyclone, a Coney Island Cyclone train, an Orient Express train that's currently, actually, the lead coach is currently on loan to Worlds of Fun for their anniversary museum. Mantis, but probably the thing that started the relationship that we have with Disney was second generation Matterhorn train that is part of the collection, and then that is expanded into some other elements that we've been able to add to the museum that we're not quite ready. They're not quite ready for prime time yet, but we will be putting into design for the on some of the final displays.
Yeah, excellent. So, building on that, Pete, could you please share a bit about the diverse pieces within the museum and how they contribute to the overall narrative that you're trying to push for the amusement park history?
Well, I mean, I think that's the thing, right? And it's the conversation that we have with ACE members a lot. Well, is it a roller coaster museum, or is it a museum of the entire theme park industry? And I'd lean toward it is, it's about the history of fun in the theme park industry. So we have the entire Selner collection as an example. And the Selner collection, Selner is an amusement ride manufacturer that made the Tilt-A-Whirl. They have all the patents on the Tilt-A-Whirl. They also made odd rides, like a ride like the Looper, which is kind of a squashed Ferris wheel that rotates, and it's kind of a vertical whip action. They did some of the original water slides into lakes on sleds, and we have some of the original sleds and all of the drawings of everything that we've done. So really, really interesting collections. But we have things that are like an avalanche vehicle in track section, Texas Splashdown with a vehicle and control panel and all the signage, because all of that fits into what the theme park experience is. And what we're trying to do is, with the collection, give a full picture of what the theme park industry is. One of the full collections we have also is the collection from Lark. And Lark is a long-standing theme park, amusement park, water park, resort development company that did a lot of projects that happened, and many, many, many dozens of other projects that didn't. And so there's a lot of neat things that are within the collection. But I think what is striking is the whole idea of, there is a mix of attractions that are related to, what is in, what's in the collection. And that helps, provide a really good picture of the amusement industry, and also that theme park experience that you had as a kid or a parent or a grandparent, and that's the idea. But then, so you then translate that to what's the academic side of that, and we're working toward that. So we have engineering drawings, we have blueprints, we have a lot of documentation that engineering students or other designers have an opportunity to be able to look and see. We have the entire Aero collection. So that includes test videos. You'll see if you go to our YouTube channel, there are test videos of Aero testing rides with speed testing and what that looked like through the 70s and 80s. Just some really interesting things that will be made available to folks. And we do that now on a request basis, depending upon what a designer is trying to do, or what a ride engineer is trying to do. I mean, I think one of the coolest things that we donated from Dollywood was the original pin model for the Tennessee Tornado. And you can very easily see within that pin model that the ride itself was not supposed to be as short as it is. So it was supposed to make a left-hand turn out of the opposing butterfly loops and go down that holler with a couple of more inversions before it came back, and then it hit that brake run straight on, which makes a lot more sense than that hard right-hand turn. And for many years before that ride had magnetic brakes on it, you'd hit that brake run and everybody would be going forward, and the whole rig would shake. And it makes much more a much greater design, but also have blueprints for a lot of classic rides from Aero through the years. So it's been a labor of love for a lot, especially somebody like Gary, who has spent literally thousands of hours there going through all of this, all the paper goods to catalog it all, and has viewed all of the videotapes, and we've transferred many of them to digital, so they'll be available as we move forward.
Pete, it seems like the master plan for the museum is starting to really come together. How much longer would you project to where maybe it's going to be eventually open for the public?
Well, I mean, I think so it's open now. If you're part of one of the clubs, or if you want to get involved into like the Texas Roundup, West Texas Roundup, for
sure.
And we always will go through and do. We always go through and tour the museum, kind of show them where we are and what's happening. But what's great is we're working with Rick Bastrop and Richard Munch are doing the actual designs for the individual guest journey through the museum. And the intent now, because everything we've done has been 100% by donation, is that we probably are going to take this a chunk at a time. So we'll do, all the designs will be done, and we're expecting at our next board meeting to see what Richard and Rick have come up with. And then we'll go out for animatronics or other things. We'll go out to the industry and try to get donations from manufacturers for those kind of things. And we'll go through to try to raise money for, say it's the growth of the, what's the arc of the wood coaster, right? What's the history arc of the wood coaster? So are we going to Great Coasters or RMC, or who are we going to go to see if they will fund that section of the museum? So as we go through that, we're hopeful that people will get excited by it, and it will start to snowball, and we'll grow and be able to do this quickly. But doing it 100% on donations and by volunteer time, it's been a rather challenging endeavor over the last 15, 16 years that we've been involved in it. But it is it's going to happen, and the folks that are involved, especially Jeff Novotny, who's now retired after selling his company to RMC, and Richard, who just retired after a career as an architect. They're very focused in trying to get this done as quickly as we can. And then, of course, as we move forward, we continue to take in a lot of new assets, because also part of what our mission is to preserve and protect. And so things that are going to be removed and potentially destroyed have an opportunity to find a place within the museum collection so that we can protect it. And right now there's plenty of room in the Mark Moore wing, which is about 10,000 square feet, to be able to house some of that until that all becomes full museum space. And, that's clear span 10,000 square feet, so it's going to provide us quite a canvas for what it is that we're going to do. But it's, as we say, it is a labor of love, but it's something that's taken some time.
Well, it's certainly appreciated. So recently you acquired a vehicle from the 1911 Derby Racer from Lakeside Park. Can you talk about the significance of that?
Yeah, I mean, so what's incredible is, so this car is a 1911 side friction car that it was from the original Derby Racer at Lakeside Park in Colorado. It's the oldest vehicle now within the collection. Now we have several Pryor and Church cars that are slightly younger than that, and we've used those Pryor and Church cars as opportunities to juxtapose them with, say, a Millennium Flyer car, so that you can see the transition of the technology. But I'll tell you what's really interesting is that some of that original technology is still very workable and is very easily seen in some vehicles that Mike Boodley designed, or some of the vehicles that we're seeing now that some of the other manufacturers are making. But this is a vehicle that was obtained and restored by Randy Duffer, who's an ACE member, and it took him over about 20 years total to be able to get through the full restoration. And by being able to get that in the collection, Randy knows that that is going to, have a place that's protected for the future, so that we know that that history is going to live on.
Pete, let's talk about the restoration that goes on. Can you share or shed some light on that? The manufacturers, what they've done, or the parks maybe, before these items come to the museum?
Well, yeah, I mean, a great example is what the partnership that we have with Europa Park. So that Eurostat coaster vehicle that came in, they literally tore it all the way down. I mean, basically the same thing that you would do when you're doing NDT on a ride to get it ready to go for the next season. And they redid all of the fiberglass work. They redid everything in the vehicle, so that it was as it was when it started its journey as a coaster vehicle at Europa Park, because they wanted to make sure that they were able to showcase that ride to be able to, so it lives on. But another great example is this Ottawa steam locomotive that Chance just donated to us. Now this is again, you think about theme park stories, and that certainly is a historical story for Chance. Dick Chance's dad started working with Ottawa Steam, and that's where he started before he started Chance. And he basically was a fabricator and built these steam locomotives and passenger cars when he was a young man. And it was an opportunity to be able to restore and kind of preserve memory by the Chance family, to be able to and then be able to provide it for the museum. Whether or not we'll run it as an actual attraction is really kind of up in the air right now, because building a museum is one thing, getting into the attractions business is something else, and there are different requirements for that. But it's certainly an attractive idea. Another example of opportunity. Kenobi Lake sent us sent us parts of the corkscrew, and part of it is the train that started its life at Old Chicago. It's arrow number 2 for those of you keeping score of our of things that we have within the collection. But the cool thing of that, we'll set up a display for it, but we have one of the actual loops, and we're looking to use that loop as an iconic piece as you enter the property for the Rollercoaster Museum. And I think that's going to be an incredibly beautiful addition as well, and something that even though it was, the loop itself was uh, dismantled, we had the opportunity to build it back the way that it was, and that's another great benefit of having the museum next to Larson. They're able to do that kind of work for us and that fabrication work to be able to get that installed, and that's the intent of that piece.
Well, Pete, you mentioned the Ottawa steam locomotive. You guys recently acquired one, and you mentioned that that's where chance rides can kind of trace back their origins. Um, you mentioned also that there was debate as to whether to run it or not, which is interesting because I hadn't heard that angle yet. But as it stands now, uh, how is this going to be an educational part for its link to the industry? Is it simply that a member of the Chance family worked there, or uh, is it because roller coasters were inspired by trains, or like what are your thoughts for the narrative message involved with it?
Well, I think you hit two big pieces. So one of them is that um, a foundational company within the modern theme park industry, Chance Rides, was influenced, educated, started at Ottawa Trains. That's where Dick's dad started before they started Chance Rides. It afforded, the opportunity as well. Ottawa Locomotives, started CP Huntington, and so that was the inspiration of those miniature trains. Um, and if you look through the history of our industry and you look at small parks, so look at a Knoebels or look at the recently defunct Joyland Park out in out in Lubbock rather. Um, they have this kind of train. It is an integral attraction to a lot of zoos, a lot of small amusement parks, and back in the trolley park days in that era as well. So there's a lot of historical opportunity for us to tell those stories using this as an icon, but it's also a great tie to the Chance family and an opportunity to tell that historical story when we're talking about Chance.
Yeah, Pete, you just had these two significant donations to the museum. When you're looking to the future, you're looking ahead, and you find that maybe a ride's going to be retired or anything like that. Um, does the museum, anybody reach out to the parks and say, "Hey, we'd like to have something," or how does that go about in terms of the acquisition process?
It really goes both ways. So you'll have an opportunity where some parks will say, hey, we're going to take out X. Are you guys interested in it? And if we are, I mean, we used to take full trains. We just literally don't have room for full trains anymore. We do like unique opportunities to be able to. Now, if there's a reason to have it, we'll get it. But it's really more about lead coaches or things that are iconic that help us tell the story. It really now is about moving the story along and preserving that piece of history. Um, on the flip side, you look at something like a piece we wish we had, and that is the wooden mouse that was at Blackpool. We reached out to try to get that piece. There were ongoing conversations about that, and it just didn't pan out. I mean, we keep trying for pieces. That's why we continue to. That's why we're trying to continue to sweeten the relationship that we have with Disney, because so much of the modern theme park history was started there. What are those things that are out there that they have within their archives, and they've been magnanimous enough to bring us out there as a board to be able to go search through their archives and their trailers of things. And as I said, there are a couple of things that are in our collection that depending upon what the story is, we'll be able to tell some. We'll be able to add them to the attractions mix. And I think that's going to be the thing, right? We're going to have to find through this process, as we build out the story of the museum and the guest journey, then I think, with the help of some sort of some level of curation, what are those things that are going to rotate in and out? Because this collection is literally, between paper and rolling stock, hundreds of thousands of pieces of history, and our intent is to continue to grow that and to make sure that we have that as a collection for posterity.
So, Pete, you mentioned, the different board members. Some of the names that have come up is Richard Munch, Gary Slade, Carol Sanderson, and yourself. Um, there's got to be a lot of camaraderie involved because I know this. You mentioned several times this is a labor of love. Can you talk about the camaraderie and how that affects how you guys work together for these projects?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we all are very passionate about the industry. We're all very passionate about, ensuring that this happens. But most all of us are some level of ride geek, right? I mean, it is a thing that, we like to ride. Some of the folks that are on the board that, a guy like Chris Gray, it was his childhood dream to do this. And so that afforded him the opportunity, with GCI and now with Skyline, that he's able to design and build these coasters. But he is, it's very important to him that we try to preserve the past. I mean, the folks that former board member like Adam Sandy is still really involved with helping us from a historical standpoint. Now he's a little too busy with what he's doing with Zamperla, but he's still an incredible resource for us. Derek Shaw, as an example, has volunteered with the museum. He's never been a board member, but is a historian for us and works with Richard to trace the history of different things that we have. But Richard has a whole gaggle of people that are, focused on the history of the industry that help us, answer some questions and trace the lineage of things. But, adding somebody, Ed Hiller just joined the board. He's the CEO of Ride Entertainment Group. They rep lots of different manufacturers, including Gerstlauer and others. And, he's a great person to be able to help us. And through that, it is, how do you connect the dots, right? And I think that that's really an important part of what we do. But it's fun. We like to have a good time. Folks go and look at rollercoastermuseum.org, which we just, that's a refresh on the website. We just redid the website within the last couple of weeks. You might look up the Buzzed Bar. We actually built a bar within the museum itself, and so that is that was something that was important to Gary and Jeff, and a lot of the pieces that are within the Buzzed Bar are pieces of history. I mean, there are a lot of brake levers. There are a lot of there's a lot of wood that are from a couple of different coasters. So some really, really neat stuff that's around, and it's a lot of fun to be with those folks, whether we're in Plainview or at IAPA or wherever we are.
Pete, the website looks fantastic. Had a chance to check it out last week as we were preparing to do this podcast with you. You got some really, really cool items that have been collected. Now, do you have a favorite item? One of those things that you just always kind of migrate back to? You just are, just enamored with it.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I think, when you look at everything we have, the fact that we were able to get a Matterhorn, second generation Matterhorn tandem is incredible. But I think I'm like a lot of folks. I tend to gravitate toward the things in which I have the most memories. I go when we rescued some of these things from the way that they were being stored historically, and a great example of that's the Orient Express. We also have a ride. We have an entire train from a ride called Thunder Express that was at Dollywood, and it was at Six Flags St. Louis before that. And sitting in those vehicles, I mean, I'm kind of an old Aero fan, and sitting in those, and the memories sitting in the front car of the Orient Express was it's just great to be able to feel that. Sitting in the tub of Big Bad Wolf, and now because of the way the display is, it's suspended, and it's just it's a cool thing. So it's hard for me to pick, but there's so many good pieces. There really are, and I think it's really going to be a rich guest journey to be able to tell people who the people are that were the most influential, and what it means, to the history of fun.
All right, so one last question, Pete. So for those listeners that are interested in the National Roller Coaster Museum and Archives, which should be everybody, where can they find more information?
Well, rollercoastermuseum.org is a great place to go. You can get a lot of information. There's opportunities there for to become a volunteer. There's an opportunity to, if you're interested in doing some sort of a thing at the museum and you want to host an event out there. So, say you're a club not ACE, and you want to do something, or you'd like to do that, you have an opportunity to reach out to us to be able to do that. But probably the most important thing is that you can donate there. And that's the place that, very easily can just click a button and donate. And all of the proceeds go to directly into the museum. There is no overhead. So I think that's, answers the question of why it's in Plainview, and also answers the question of what do you do with the money? Well, none of us get anything. I mean, we pay for our own travel. I paid for the refresh of the website, and I pay for the monthly fee for the website. Just that's part of my donation to the museum. And Jeff Novotny pays for the overhead. So there is, none of that. The donations that we get from the American Coaster Enthusiasts go immediately into helping us get acquisitions. Shipping is not inexpensive. The loop that we picked up, that is going to be a centerpiece for the museum and the train, took 5 tractor trailers. So that's not an inexpensive date to be able to get us to be able to get that from all the way across the country. But our folks try to do it in the most frugal way that we can, and so the money, we know that the money that we get is going to the right place. So those are I would say that's the best place. But I would say this too: if you have a collection, or you have something you want to donate, say you picked up a vehicle, or you picked up a collection of things at an auction, or it's something that has been in your rec room, and it's something that you think is noteworthy, email us. And the email is, you can there's a contact form there. Email us and let us know, and we'll evaluate what it is and where it's from, and we'll see how it could fit in the collection. So all those things are opportunities to be able to get involved.
Well, Pete, I can tell you that my wife would just absolutely love it if that beast seat that's in my living room could be moved somewhere else. She's not a fan of it, but Pete, really, thank you for joining us. Taking us on this journey for the National Roller Coaster Museum and Archives, the history and the collections that are in there. It's fascinating to learn about it. I really want to, be able to get to Plainview and check it out. I think it would just be one of those days I would just spend hours in there, just looking at everything. I know Ryan would like to check out the Buzz Bar. and see what that's all about. But this has really been an enjoyable conversation for us, and appreciate your time.
It is entirely my pleasure. Thanks, guys. Thanks for taking the time and asking us about
Absolutely. Now, I want to give a different plug too, because the shop that you guys have is just incredible. I just remembered to grab this. This is a poster. I haven't framed it yet, but I got this in the Schwarzkopf 3D printed logo. The last time we had Chris Roberry on the show, and he mentioned the shop, so I checked it out. So definitely check out the shop. I assume it's still on the website, even though it's been refreshed, correct?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And that is, I'll tell you, Chris is amazing. That's an example of somebody that is probably one of our most rabid volunteers. He does all the social for us, and and the store was really his brainchild and his passion. And the artwork that was created for us, I think, is amazing. A lot of the photography that you see of the individual ride vehicles that are beautifully lit and all of that, Chris has taken all of those, and it's amazing, and I can't thank him enough for everything that he's done. Just has been amazing, and has helped us move this kind of Titanic of a project down the road much faster than perhaps it would have gotten there without.
Yeah, so we're going to link to your website in the description of both the YouTube video and the podcast app. So give them a look, donate, buy some stuff. It's really cool stuff. So I couldn't recommend it more. But Pete, once again, I want to express my gratitude. It's been fantastic having you on the show. So thank you everybody for listening. Remember, you can find us on all your favorite podcast apps as well as YouTube, and follow us on Twitter /X at attractions_GRP. Until next time.